Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Harry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And I'm back. Back again. Darryl's back. Tell a friend. Bloody blah. You know the rest of the song, right? Right? Yeah. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a really, really, really dated reference. I don't know. Because, I'm not necessarily, hip to all the new stuff. But, yeah, I'm back. And you might be asking yourself, Darryl, where were you Friday? And I know that I had mentioned, like, a week and a half ago that there would probably have not been a show this past Friday, but I don't think I mentioned it on the show last Monday. The reason there was no show on Friday is because I was in the White Mountains of New Hampshire at the New Hampshire Cannabis Freedom Festival, and I was manning a booth and co-hosting Free Talk Live. And I know you're probably thinking, but Free Talk Live is a nighttime show, so why? Well, we were actually recording segments during the day and then uploading, but the internet was not that great, plus manning an outreach booth made it to where it wasn't really feasible for me to try doing a Peace, Love, Liberty Radio from the New Hampshire Cannabis Freedom Festival. But did a lot of good libertarian outreach, had a Libertarian Party outreach booth, actually an Operation Politically Homeless, that had the booth space had been donated to LPNH by Ian Freeman, the main host of Free Talk Live, also the person, the guy, the person, the man, whatever, behind the Liberty Radio Network, behind LRN.FM, which is one of the places where you can find this show, as well as many others. Again, so thanks to Ian for that. And yeah, so we did the Operation Politically Homeless, which is where you've got the Nolan chart quiz, the Nolan chart and the 10-question quiz, the world's smallest political quiz. Have people take the quiz, figure out where they are on the chart, and then they put the little stickers. And, the chart winds up populating, and it looks really, really cool with all of those stickers. And there were a lot of people that fell into what technically should not be called the Libertarian Quadrant, because on the Nolan chart there are 5 little things, and I'm not sure what the term is to use, but quadrant is the term that people use. And the reason I say quadrant is not the right term is because quadrant means one of 4, and technically if there's 5 things, quadrant isn't the correct term. But again, I digress. Outreach was really good, and the event itself, while smaller than expected and smaller than HempFest last year, yes, I know 2 separate events, but they're kind of linked together based on organizers. But technically this was the first New Hampshire Cannabis Freedom Festival. I think attendance was pretty good for a first-year event. So let's get into some of the show prep here. And, every now and then I'll have things in my show prep for a while before I get to it. And then there are times where I just kind of, stumble upon something the day of recording the show. And, you know what? I'm going with that one. And this relates to probably stuff that we've talked about before. I know it relates somewhat to other things that I do have in the show prep. One of them is we're living in a generation where people confuse fame with self-esteem. And I might be able to get to this article as well, but what we're starting off with, article, again, as a lot of the articles for this show, comes from lifehack.org. Headline, don't wait for people to praise you. Do it yourself every single day. And the reason I say that this is very closely connected is because, again, a lot of people do confuse fame with self-esteem. Oh, well, everybody loves you. You're famous. People know who you are. You've got a lot of people that look up to you, and that people build their self-esteem around, basically approval of others. But, well, the author here, Brian Lee, who is the Chief of Product Management at Lifehack, he basically says, no, you should build yourself up and, just forget what other people have to say. Jumping into the article, he says, looking within ourselves is often not second nature to us. When we're young, we get into the habit of looking to our parents and our peers for recognition in order to validate ourselves. It's how we tend to learn about the world around us and our place within it. In our structured school system, we're used to waiting for a teacher's approval and recognition, and rarely learn to actually recognize ourselves. Doing this often led to accusations of arrogance rather than self-empowerment. Our culture teaches us to focus on our weaknesses. And this is something that I know I've talked about before, to where, you're taught, like, get up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and then figure out all of the things that are wrong with you. But don't worry. Here's a product that can fix all of your problems. Find all of your problems and, look, we've got products. We've got things that can fix this. And this is not an argument against free markets. This is an argument against sort of the consumerism that's, currently existing, to where, we're creating problems, or rather we're creating solutions, and then we find the problem. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.info, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.info today to find out more. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account, or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Coinbase has more than 1 million consumer wallets and is trusted by over 25,000 merchants, including Overstock.com, Khan Academy, Reddit, and of course, FPP. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, how many times, answer honestly, how many times have you seen an advertisement for a product and thought to yourself, what are they trying to solve? What problem are they trying to solve with this product? There are some products where it's very easy to see what problem is being solved. But others, it seems as though somebody creates a product and then they wind up, we've got to figure out what to do with this, how to market this, and then they create a problem. They create a non-existent problem that lo and behold, their product just happens to wind up solving. And some of this, I know a lot of the late night TV infomercials wind up doing a lot of this. And while I don't have TV now, I'm guessing it's not changed, from a decade ago, to where it'll start off of, have you ever had this problem? And there's the world's clumsiest person opening up a cupboard or a pantry, and then, just all of the Tupperware falling out. And my thought when I see that is, who doesn't know how to stack their Tupperware? But then, well, lucky for you, we've got the miracle Tupperware stacker upper thing. Oh, well, here's a solution for a problem you probably didn't know you had. Again, that's because our current culture teaches us to focus on our weaknesses. It's this early structure in our culture that limits our sense of discovery about our inner selves. But it also transcends throughout our lives through our general mindset of self-improvement. When we talk about improving ourselves, it tends to come from a space of lack. We sense we're not doing something right or we're heading in the wrong direction. And it's usually in these circumstances that we feel that we need to improve the flaws that have taken us there. When we ask for feedback, more often than not, it's our flaws and what we're not good enough at that's highlighted rather than what we have done well. The danger of this comes when our strengths are not celebrated and instead are neglected in a way that is never developed into a great one. What recognition does to our brains. Recognition from others can be important, but not when it's your only source. Recognizing your own achievements and strengths is much more powerful than any outside validation. Studies show that writing down and recognizing your own accomplishments, no matter how small, actually creates activity in the reward circuitry of your brain. Dopamine, along with other key chemicals, is released, causing a sense of energy around our achievement and allows us to get that feel-good factor. This is why waiting for recognition from others can be futile. It may seem positive to get that feedback and validation from others, but when it doesn't ultimately come from within, it can wear off easily. When we do well, often we're the first to notice, and we can overestimate how much others care about our accomplishments. This is why you should not wait for recognition, but instead feel the power of recognizing yourself. And just to sort of sidetrack here a little bit, even though, you recognizing your own achievements does wind up releasing dopamine in your brain, if the only feedback you ever get is negative, then you recognizing your own achievements doesn't have as big of an impact on you, if that makes sense. And there have been other studies that have been done to show how many times you need to get praised in order to stop focusing on that one time you were put down, or that one time your boss told you something negative, or that one time your coworker said this. So, there are correlations of, some kind of ratio of positive feedback to negative feedback and how minds actually wind up responding. But since it is important to recognize your own achievements yourself, how do you wind up doing that and gaining empowerment? The author here has a couple of suggestions. First, he says, write down 3 small achievements every day. We can go through our whole day and assume we've not achieved anything, but this is never actually the case. Even the smallest things, such as meeting a new person, walking 10 minutes more than usual, or helping a stranger should be considered an accomplishment and should be celebrated. Writing down at least 3 small achievements each day can get us noticing that we do achieve more than we think. And it's the collection of these small achievements that adds up to the huge successes. J.K. Rowling spent many years achieving small tasks before she became hugely successful. And again, success can be defined in many different ways. Persevering and writing every day with the odds seemingly piled against her would have been extremely hard with no outside validation and constant rejection from publishers. Instead, she took note of how well she did each and every day and how much closer she was to getting a goal accomplished. For every weakness, write down a similar strength. And this is probably going to wind up being the hardest thing for some people to do. And as I often do when I say, hey, pay attention to this, I'm talking to myself about myself as much as anybody. It's easy to focus on our weaknesses, but a good strategy is to counteract any weakness with a strength. In other words, putting a positive spin on something seemingly negative. This helps you see the glass as half full and see strengths that you have not necessarily recognized. If you're an overthinker, right next to that you're detail-minded. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. We'll get back into the show prep here in just a moment. But first, I've got a question for you. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you promote Bitcoin as an alternative in this fiat-centric world? If so, then you need Spendabit in your arsenal. Spendabit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. Going over a list, a very short list of how to recognize your own achievements and to gain empowerment. Because it's important to recognize your own achievements and not, sit there waiting for outside validation. So the first item here is to write down 3 small achievements every day. And for every weakness that you can think of, write down a similar strength. This winds up helping you see the glass as half full and see strengths that you've not necessarily recognized. If you're an overthinker, write down that you're also detail-minded. Being a perfectionist means you take pride in an attention to detail. Having a tendency to be overeager means you're passionate. Writing these down enables you to see things from a different perspective, and you'll recognize not to dwell on weaknesses as completely negative. And it was a few shows ago, I forget exactly which episode, but we did talk about empathy a good bit. And a lot of times, for some, it's easy for them to put themselves in other people's shoes to see how they would feel and respond to things. But there are some people that aren't, they're either not able to empathize with themselves, or they just, don't try. And I realize that sounds weird, empathize with yourself. But what I mean is there are people, myself included here, whose inner voice will say mean, horrible things to them that that person would never think to say to anybody else. A lot of time, there are a lot of people who are they are their own worst critic. And some of those people are empaths, meaning that, they're very easily or readily able to understand how other people, would respond to a situation, or they can understand why that person responded how they did, but they don't take the time to, do that self-care for themselves. Next on the list here, don't play the comparison game. We're all victims of comparing our lives to the success of others. And as I've mentioned before, a lot of times people will wind up comparing what's on their cutting room floor to everybody else's highlight reel. And I know that I've explained what I mean by saying that, but sometimes I feel like I need to re-explain stuff just in case somebody's never heard the thing before. So think of the most well-done movie trailer ever. It's like all the highlights and the key scenes, and it really gets you gripped, and I've got to go see that. Well, that's how we view a lot of people anyway view others. Oh wow, look at that! Really fancy movie trailer, promo thing. Everything in their life is just so nice and tidy and put together. And then we're looking around at our stuff of, oh yeah, here's that time I did that thing that I don't want anybody knowing, because we're looking at the stuff that, it's not going in our biopic. It's not going in that movie trailer for our lives, but we choose to compare what we're, cutting out and wanting to forget with what everybody else wants the world to see. So stop comparing your lives to that of others, because this causes you to focus, again, from a space of lack, and it stops you from seeing what you've done and what you actually have good going for you. We have to remember that everyone is on their own path and at their own pace. Most of the time, we only see a fraction of someone's life, so it's futile to believe someone is ultimately doing better than us. Social media presents us with the constant opportunity to see a small window into the lives of others, but be aware that feelings of envy are pointless and they diminish your sense of achievement. Don't get sucked into the comparison game. And finally, the last piece of info here, or the last tip of how to wind up recognizing your own achievements to gain personal empowerment. Keep listening, but remain detached. I'll say it again. Keep listening, but remain detached. And I'll explain exactly what is meant by that here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
Hi, this is Roger Paxton from the Lava Flow Podcast, the Free Coast Freecast, and Pax Libertas Productions, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, going over some pieces of advice on how to recognize your own achievements and gain personal empowerment. And we'll not have time in this episode to get into the article explaining why people wind up confusing fame with self-esteem, but I will post that link in the show notes. So again, the pieces of advice on being able to recognize your own achievements. Write down 3 small achievements every day. Could be as simple as you met a new person, you went for a longer walk or longer run than normal, you helped somebody do something. Just any small achievement that you have, and sooner or later you'll realize that you're actually doing more than you think. For every weakness that you can think of that you have, not that they're asking you to sit down and think of your weaknesses, but if you think of one, come up with a similar strength. Stop playing the comparison game and keep listening, but remain detached. The modern world has a competitive nature about it. We feel that we need to be the best, and to do so, struggle and strive to be better, but at the cost of what? The feedback we get tends to focus on the negative. But the key is to be able to filter out the helpful from the unhelpful. It's up to us to decide what is constructive in our growth and what is just unnecessary. Don't get caught up dwelling on others' opinions about you, but instead accept if it's something you genuinely want to work and focus on or not. Recognizing this from within rather than relying on outside validation will help you grow much more quickly and in your own way. So, while being recognized for your achievements will give you a boost of confidence, it has the danger of being very conditional to your sense of self-worth. By learning to celebrate and recognize your achievements and accomplishments from within, you will move forward and grow in much better ways than you ever thought. Again, the link will be in the show notes, as well as the link to the article. We're living in a generation where people confuse fame with self-esteem. Both of those will be in the show notes. And don't forget, every Friday I answer your questions. Send those over using the anonymous contact form found on the website ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.